So rotation part of the project, the first part of the rotation, we are asked to rotate your picture 90 degrees clockwise about the origin. So when it's 90 degrees clockwise about the origin, I want to remember these things here. So 90 degrees, I'm going to take x, y, my point, I'm going to flip them and make the x the opposite. So the way I want to do this is I first, on my piece of paper, I want to write down all my points. That's going to be the easiest for me. So I'm going to take all my points. Now on yours, you guys are not going to have these same points, which is okay. You're still going to do the same thing though to them. So for showing your work, I want you to write down like this. And then first rotation, you want to write that, and then you want to write that it's 90 degrees clockwise. And then I like to write myself a little note that xy is going to become y, and then the opposite of x. See how I did that? I'm just writing my little note. So this is what I'm doing for my first rotation. So each one of these points I'm going to flip. So negative 10, 10 becomes 10. Can't see that, can you? Becomes 10, negative 10. And the x becomes the opposite. So my x was a negative 10, so it becomes positive 10. And I'm just going to make that negative a positive. See how I did that? So this one becomes 15, negative 8. And the negative becomes a positive. 10, negative 4, the negative 4 becomes the positive. 5, negative 3, the negative 3 becomes the positive. I'm just making these x's the opposites. So negative 10 becomes 10, negative 8 becomes 8, negative 4 becomes 4, negative 3 becomes 3. Now I have 4 new points, and I'm going to go plot them on my graph. So I have 10, 10, plot the point. 15, goes a little off my graph, but that's okay. 15 and up to 8. 10, 4. And 5, 3. So if I had my piece of pizza and I rotated it, it would be like this now. You don't have to worry about drawing the picture right now because we're going to be drawing the picture. We're going to be using outlines of them, so it's a little easier when we draw the picture. Okay, the next one, you're going to rotate. It says for the second rotation to rotate your picture 180 degrees counterclockwise. Now, when you're doing 180 degrees, it doesn't matter if it's counterclockwise or clockwise. So your second rotation, I'm going to write down second rotation, and it has to be 180 degrees counterclockwise. Again, counterclockwise or clockwise does not matter when you're doing 180 degrees. So my little cheat sheet of 180 degrees, all I'm doing is I'm making the x and the y the opposite. So x becomes negative x, y becomes negative y. If they were negatives, they would become the positives of them. So I'm going to take my points, these points right here. You want to rotate your previous image. So right here, I'm going to take these points, so it's going to be 10, 10, 15, 8, 10, 4, and 5, 3. And this is where, if they're positive, they become negative. So 10 becomes a negative 10, 10 becomes a negative 10. You're just doing the opposite of the x and y. So negative 15, negative 8, negative 10, negative 4, negative 5, negative 3. I do, if I want to, I can make my little remembrance of xy becomes negative x, or opposite x, opposite y. Make your little note to yourself to remember. And then my second rotation, I'm going to go plot those points. Now think about this. My rotation, my second rotation was here, and it asked me to do 180 degrees, right? Counterclockwise, right? So it would go here and then here, down to this one. So all my points should be in this quadrant right here. So let's go and plot them. Negative 10, down to 10. Plot this point. That's in there. Negative 15 is again off my thing. Negative 15, 15, or 8 is to here. Negative 10, negative 4 to there. Negative 5, negative 3 to here. Those are the only two rotations that we are learning today. So I'm going to stop my video. But my second one here is 90 degrees counterclockwise, and the third rotation we are asked to do on here is rotate your second rotation 270 degrees clockwise. So 270 degrees clockwise is the same as 90 degrees counterclockwise. So instead of making our x the opposite, we make the y the opposite. So xy, and xy becomes negative yx. So on my third rotation, I'm going to write, it was what, 270 clockwise, and that means that I'm going to go make my x, y, I'm going to flip them, becomes y, x, and then it's the opposite of the y this time. So I'm going to rewrite my 4 points. So negative 10, not my original 4 points, the last 4 points that I made. Negative 15, negative 8, negative 10, negative 4, negative 5, negative 3. Those 4 points I need to flip. So negative 10, and then the y becomes the opposite. So this y becomes the opposite. Flip these, and then the y is the opposite. So flip them, the y becomes the opposite. The y becomes the opposite. Now I have 4 more points. Now thinking of this, we're doing this last one 270 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees. So my object, or my new picture, should be in this one right here. So I'm going to go and plot my points, and all of my points should be in here. So 10, negative 10 is in this quadrant. 8, negative 15, again, is going to be a little off of my thing. That's okay. Positive 4, negative 10, and positive 3, negative 5.